Nicky Morgan.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr Deputy Speaker. I draw attention to the entry on my entry in the Register of Members' Interests, and also following the spirit of the Honourable Member for Leeds Central, the fact that my family are members of the National Trust. I was a member until I reached this place and now have no time to go and visit their beautiful houses and locations, but perhaps I will one day. I welcome the opportunity for debating this issue this afternoon. During the recent conference recess, I attended a number of meetings on this subject in my constituency, and I'd like to pay tribute to the Garendon Park Countryside Protection Group, the Barrow Residents Action Group and the Loughborough South West Action Group, all of whom took the time to brief me on their thoughts and concerns about what is being proposed. As you've already heard, planning is a very popular issue for my constituents to write to me about. I estimate that I've probably had about 100 people at least contacting me in that sort of individual letters, often signed by many more people, about either the framework, the localism bill or specific planning applications within the last few months. And I'm not at all surprised by the fact the Minister says that they've had 10,000 responses to the framework. I wish him well in reading all of those, or at least a proportion. We've heard some talk this afternoon about the current planning system, which I have to say I don't think the current system has anything to recommend it. I've not been a local councillor. I should say I'm married to a local councillor, and I've watched him grapple with the system and the councillors within my constituency. I think the current planning rules are inaccessible for local residents. I think 1,000 pages is far too long, and it is basically a lawyer's charter. I speak as a former lawyer. I think communities feel shut out of the process. I think there are limited grounds for objection. I can't think of the number of times we've had to try to work out whether there's a highways ground or something else, try and make sure that there is a reason for objecting. I also think that there's no obligation for those wishing to develop land to consult, and I think that's a mistake, and I think that's something the framework will put right. The Honourable Lady for Lewisham East, who's now not in her place, unfortunately, talked about the planning process, and I think she's absolutely right. I think planning applications take too long, I think appeals are too costly, and I think that's why we need a proper plan-led system, which is something I think the framework will deliver. I've already said to the Minister privately that I think although a lot of discussion has been about house building, we have forgotten in part of this debate the need of businesses. Small businesses in my constituency often need places to expand, and they do find, that's the point I made in my intervention, was the fact that often they have to go around the houses several times before they get their application approved. And if we have the system working as we want it to work, I'd like to think that's not the case. We've also heard from members on all sides of the House the fact that we all know people who can't get onto the housing ladder, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's family housing, whether it's older people's accommodation. There is definitely a need for more housing, but it has to be in the place where people want it to be within their local communities. And we've also heard about the fact the planning system at the moment is currently in limbo. It is leaving councils vulnerable to speculative applications, and I take those words from a recent paper presented to the Charnwood Borough Council Cabinet by the planning officers. We cannot allow this limbo period to continue for too much longer. I am broadly supportive of the aims of the framework, but there are a number of key areas I would like clarification on. The first, we've talked about the presumption in favour of sustainable development. May I, at the risk of ousting the officials in DCLG who know, I'm sure, far more, have thought this through far more than I have, I think it would be better captured as a general principle of building long-term successful communities that support economic growth, environmental protection, and that rather woolly phrase, to use a phrase used earlier on, general well-being. But I think that's what we want. We want long-term and successful communities. I think there does need to be further clarification of the relationship between local authority and neighbourhood plans, and I do endorse the comments of the Honourable Member for Winchester. If we believe in localism, and I think we do in this side of the House, we've really got to go for it. We can't have half-baked localism. I am unhappy about the idea of having a 5-year supply of housing land plus the 20% allowance. I think this seems to contradict the government's aim of abolishing top-down housing targets. I think I entirely endorse what's been said about the use of existing housing stock. In Loughborough, we have a number of student houses which used to be occupied by students and now sitting empty. I'd like the council, and I'd like, supported by the government, to have innovative ways of bringing those houses back into family use. We've talked about markets, and I entirely endorse the comments of the Honourable Lady, the MP for Stockport, and what she said about the importance of markets within our town centres. We've already talked about transition arrangements. The other thing that's become clear to me is that there's other guidance which may not be within the planning system, and I particularly talk here about highways. I've discovered something this week called the Manual for Streets 2, which talks about traffic junctions, which appears to be driving the need for potentially the council to give the give the go-ahead for a development in Barrow-upon-Soar, and I don't think that's right. But I would like to thank the government for allowing this time for debate. I can't remember the last time that we debated something and we're still going through consultation.